Hi,
everyone. Hi, Elizabeth.
How's everyone today?
So
we're all doing good, apparently.
Yeah. Especially those of us in Southern California keep talking about the weather. It's so beautiful today.
Has it been really cold out there for you guys at night too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because God, it is like these weird temperatures, like as soon as night hits, and never had in Northern California like it has been the last few years.
Yeah, same here.
Good. At least I know I'm not going crazy.
No. So I think if everyone wants to take this moment to ping some people into the room that you think might be interested in the conversation, now is the time.
Julie,
I'll go ahead and
can you remind us how we do that now that
changed
all the features here?
Yeah, so I'm going to get right into all of it. So, hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Julie Szmyd, host for This Room and Club. The little plus sign feature that used to be at the bottom of your screen there has been replaced with a, there was a little chasing arrows. This is a good question. I think the little share on Clubhouse, the little upload icon at the bottom, will allow you to ping individuals into the room so you can invite people directly, especially if you think they're people that you think would enjoy this conversation. You can narrow your search with keywords like data or privacy or things like that if you do have a lot of followers. And additionally, with that little upload icon at the bottom, you can share the room directly on Clubhouse with a little note to share for folks. I definitely recommend doing that. That gets it out in the hallways. And you'll see the little chat icon next to that. That is also a new recent Clubhouse update. So we'll enable that for the duration of the room. You'll find that the speakers and audience members can chat there. You can ask questions, make comments back and forth throughout the show. It works similar to a Zoom chat. I will do my very best to keep up with everyone's comments and questions and moderate that. So if something gets missed, you can always directly back channel me as well. So feel free if you have any message that you want to get directly out there. Additionally, be sure to follow me, all our moderators and panelists here today. Check out and follow others in the room. The closed caption does scroll at the bottom. Additionally, you can state your name at the beginning and the end to help support that also. For example, my name is Julie and I'm done speaking. We do encourage everyone in the audience, if you're interested or inspired, please raise your digital hand. We will do our very best to get to everyone. We do encourage everyone to participate, though. And please note, our club is called Consuli Conversations. In addition to this room, we do host a long COVID and clinical trials room. You can learn more by following our club, Consuli Conversations. Just tap the little greenhouse at the top there, give us a follow. You'll see all our upcoming rooms and our profile there. And for any direct questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, if you'd like to join this panel or have someone to recommend for the next room, you'll find my direct email in my bio. And you'll find our social media handle, which is @Consuli_Inc. Please give us a follow, learn more about us, share. And for those that don't yet know Consuli, broadly, Consuli is a public benefit company with the mission to enable individuals to participate in the data economy. Experts suggest our individual data is worth $20,000 per year, so we help people choose who gets access to and how their personal information is used, and if and when desired, get them paid for their data and make medicine better. We do this by operating a marketplace for members where we become their agent. Our members receive smart-matched, individualized offers from us for opportunities including, I think I just got cut off, in clinical trials and data trials. There's no cost to join our movement. You can learn more and join our membership at consuli.net. That's consuli.net. And I'll be pinning that to the top of the room right now as well. Apologies for not having that sooner. That feature of Clubhouse is updated as well, and so bear with me as I navigate all the new features alongside everyone here. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to our room moderator, Elizabeth Dreicer, who is a philanthropist, activist, and co-founder and CEO of Consuli. Elizabeth will be introducing our distinguished panelists and guests. Elizabeth, now over to you. This is Julie. I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much, Julie. And thanks, Spencer. Appreciate all your help in making this event possible. And also all of our panelists, welcome. We're delighted to be able to host and facilitate this room. Also, just a note that we have been assembling and hosting a virtual whiteboard, a public whiteboard, where you can see information that we've assembled over the course of the past approximately year, and just really encourage participation there, but also just to indicate that, this room, we air out a lot of things. Sometimes, it's a meandering journey, which has lots of different facets because this issue is so multifaceted and multidimensional. And there is order from the chaos that is emerging in that virtual public whiteboard. And so many of the folks here, both participating on the panel and the audience, we know benefit from that and will have the opportunity to advance these various areas, which we'll hear more about here today. Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce you to other members of our team and our fabulous guest panelists. First up, I'd like to introduce Spencer Gurley. Spencer is a recent computer science graduate from the University of California, Santa Cruz, with a focus in ethical algorithms, fairness, and bias within machine learning and artificial intelligence and social implications of tech. As an undergrad, he was instrumental in the creation of the Center for Applied Values and Ethics in Advancing Technologies, as well as establishing a curriculum for the course, Ethics and Algorithms. Spencer's a member of our team and in partnership with others, helping us stand up the Data Dignity Alliance. I'm turning the mic over to Spencer for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Hey, everyone. I'll keep it short because I think we have a lot of really great panelists to get through. Really looking forward to the conversation. I think it's conversations like these where we really make some leaps and bounds and kind of get a full picture, which is why I'm really excited that we have such a diverse, such a multifaceted panel today. So just really looking forward to the conversation. This is Spencer, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Next up is Alice Rathjen. Alice is one of the early pioneers of computational biology and spatial analysis of genomes. She has been a serial entrepreneur in genomics for nearly 2 decades, having launched Dominga, the first direct-to-consumer genetic testing service in 2000, and DNA Guide, the first genome browser for mobile platforms in 2009. I'm turning the mic over to Alice for her opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for being here. Just wanted to reiterate, I'm looking forward to the conversation today greatly, especially in light of, the incidents of war and the need for us to get this right on a global basis. We want to deal people into their dignity, their data, but at the same time, not create systems that make them vulnerable. So my name's Alice, and I'm done speaking. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Alice. Yeah, very important commentary on that front. All right, so next up, looks like we have Manuel Koshi. Manuel is a systems architect with a lifelong research interest and focus in the design space of intelligence amplification. I'm turning the mic over to Manuel for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Hi, thank you for having me. This has been awesome every time I've been in this room. Really looking forward to add some value. Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Manuel. Okay, next up is Christine von Raesfeld. Christine is the founder and CEO of People with Empathy. Christine is a leader in bringing a critically needed patient perspective to cutting-edge medical innovations. She's committed to providing patients with chronic and rare diseases with the support they need. She works with patient advocacy organizations, industry representatives, and individual patients and their loved ones. You can hear Christine's perspective in the Clubhouse room, Health.Reconsidered, where she discusses medtech, digital rights, clinical trials, patient experience, and precision medicine. I'm turning the mic over to Christine for her opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We need to shorten my intro. I am a patient. I've got experience in dealing with every aspect of healthcare. And again, I'm on Social Security disability myself. So really speaking out for those like me who really need to be dealt into the data economy. So I'm Christine, my perspective. And my chat feature isn't working. So if anything important comes up, let me know. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Christine. No, I don't think we need to shorten your bio. You deserve every bit of that. And thanks for all the work that you do on behalf of so many. Okay, so next up, I'd like to introduce Mitch Jackson. Mitch is an award-winning Orange County Trial Lawyer of the Year in 2009 and in 2013 California Litigation Lawyer of the Year. He enjoys applying his 35 years of practicing law to help and add value to consumers and clients who are doing the digital dance at the intersection of law, business, and technology, including the metaverse and Web3. I'm turning the mic over to Mitch for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Elizabeth. It's good to be here, everyone. Never has data dignity been more important, I think, than in today's world and what we're experiencing right now in real time. So it's a pleasure to be here. I did get a couple of pings from some friends. They're not really sure what data dignity means. And I know you talk about this quite a bit in this club, but maybe somebody could share exactly what you mean by data dignity so everybody's on the same page.
Indeed. Thanks so much. I think that'll be one of the first dialogue points as we finish the introductions. Thanks for that. You're right. I think it means different things to different people. So we'll try to address the contours of that great question. All right. Next up, I'd like to introduce Isaac Miller. Isaac was originally trained to help with narcotics recovery, auto engineering, and financial service startups. He is currently shifting his career to something more mental and life-changing. He's the creator of The Daily Archetype, a community focused on discussing philosophy, psychology, and deeper ideas of why we do what we do. He has Jaron Lanier's books and even hosted rooms on Dignity on Clubhouse as well. And I'm turning the mic to Isaac for his opening remarks. And Isaac, feel free to also pontificate on your perspective on data dignity. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. I'm walking my dog right now, but I think you'll hear me okay. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and always happy to talk about this topic. Thank you for that introduction. And like you said, getting into Jaron Lanier's books and also his YouTube lectures. By the way, that's someone I would really recommend for those who are interested in the subject. Search Jaron Lanier on YouTube, and then, of course, some of his books that you'll find. And I think the key issue with that is, sometimes when we think of data dignity, we almost think of just the way we think of privacy traditionally, and that is part of it. But one of the things that Jaron Lanier makes really clear is, yes, it is about that, but he makes this point that the advertising companies still call themselves that, but they're not really that anymore, at least in terms of these big tech companies. They are what he calls behavior modification companies. And so what's important isn't just the way we think of privacy traditionally and the way we think of data traditionally. That is important, but it's why that they want the data, and the reason that they want the data is to modify our behavior, almost like rats in a Skinner box, is a point that he often makes. And that's one thing that's really important to me as I've been studying psychology and things the last few years, especially, is if we're going to be advertised to, that's one thing, but if we're going to unconsciously have our behavior modified, that's another thing. But anyway, thanks a lot for having me, and this should be interesting. Thanks a lot. I'm Isaac.
Thanks, Isaac. Appreciate that. And for those somewhere in the chat, maybe we can, Spencer, we can put in Jaron Lanier's spelling, because that may not be obvious to everybody. So, next up is Matt Prewitt. Matt is president of RadicalxChange Foundation. He's also a lawyer, programmer, and writer, and research partner at Amitum. Amitum. You're going to have to pronounce that. Apologies for that. He's focused on developing systems of governance that work better than capitalism. I'm turning the mic to Matt for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Hello, happy to be here. It's Amentum for the record, but no worries. And I've been interested in this topic of fairness with regards to data and power over information for a long time, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much, Matt. Okay, so next up, Morva Reed, Sallypur, and if I've said that incorrectly, please correct me. Morva Reed is managing attorney at Sallypur Legal Consulting, a law firm specializing in assisting startups and businesses and counseling them on issues involved with product IP, licensing and protection, open source issues, and data and privacy rights. She has represented clients across the nation, ranging from entrepreneurs and small businesses to Fortune 500 companies, and works in a variety of industries, including all sorts of technology, software as a service, and software, among others. I am turning the mic over to Morva Reed for her opening remarks now. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all here. I'm looking forward to having the discussion. Data issues are such an important part. I think so many of, it's an issue for all my tech clients and becoming an increasing issue that businesses have to address around both data privacy and cybersecurity concerns. So, the law is changing since it's still early days of this. So I think until we get some kind of universal law across the US from the federal level, we're going to have an increasing mess of laws across many states. That's going to really complicate the situation. This is Morva Reed. I'm finished speaking.
Thanks, Morva Reed. Okay, and next up is Amin. Iman. Amin is currently a project contributor at Rally Ecosystem DAO. In the past, he's utilized data analytics in the Web 2 space towards process improvement in the areas of ops, marketing, logistics, also leveraging his experience in the crypto space since 2014. He's moderated and contributed to Bitcoin and crypto education rooms on data integrity for English and Farsi-speaking communities on Clubhouse, including Crypto and Coffee, Cafe Bitcoin, and Crypto Fundamentals. I'm turning the mic over to Amin for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
All righty. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate the introduction. I'm happy that this space is being facilitated to help bring discussions on how we see data dignity and integrity, and especially with how the growth of how Web3 is redefining our relationship of how we own on our ownership with data, and looking at upcoming governance structures like decentralized autonomous organizations, helping to facilitate the conversations on how users and developers can come and coordinate together on how we can collectively benefit on distributing data and creating new incentives on on better structures on how we use data for the better good. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion. My name is Amin, and I'm done talking.
Thanks so much, Amin. We're glad to have you with us. Next up is Jenny Hederman. Jenny is Risk Counsel from the Office of the Comptroller in Massachusetts. Her specialty in state finance law, compliance, and risk management, including cybersecurity, internal controls, financial reporting, etc. Jenny, I am turning the mic over to you for your opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Spencer, for the invite. This is a great room, and I'm glad we're having the discussions. I know, as was said earlier, the laws are always coming after the fact. They don't come in the beginning, and a lot of it is because technology, from its inception, is designed for one purpose, and it's usually efficiency and to be helpful, and then it's used for other types of purposes, either for good or for bad. And I think that really quick evolution is changing how we're looking at data. So happy to be part of the conversation. Jenny out.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Appreciate your perspective. Next up is Amir Abdi. Amir graduated with a Master's of Computer Science in the field of distributed computing at UPM in Malaysia. He's interested in data science, machine learning, and wrote his first paper about performance evaluation of using machine learning in IDS, or intrusion detection systems. He's been published in international journals. His first book is being published and will be available soon. I'm turning the mic to Amir for his opening remarks now. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Amir, if you could turn up your volume, we do hear you, but you're quite faint, so hoping that might be able to be adjusted.
Is it better now?
Not terribly better for me. Is it better for anybody else?
Not for me either. On the three dots on the corner, do you still have that where it can adjust your volume?
All right, I'm so sorry about that. I will try it later. I will connect another one. Sorry.
We'll come back to you. I think if you see at the three dots at the top, what Christine was just referring to, there's an audio quality. Christine, can you say a little bit more? I haven't done that either. I guess.
Yeah, the three little dots at the corner should, if you tap on those three dots, it should give you the audio quality, and you should be able to change that to high. It should be set on normal, but I'm not sure if it's on every, some of the devices are different too. So.
And I think he might have just dropped out, and he might come back in. So we'll come back to Amir as soon as he is back with us. Okay, so next up, let's see here. I'm just making sure we have Spencer. Do we have Linda? Oh, skip Linda. Okay, got it. Okay, thanks. Okay, so next up, Daniel Schauer. Daniel believes that the AI tools available today for anyone to download and use are an inherent threat to the ongoing trust of any audio or video. He's working on a solution that provides a way for any company, government, or person to easily claim all their digital assets as NFTs on a decentralized system. And by storing the content on a blockchain using advanced techniques, he believes fraudulent media can be detected. I am turning the mic over to Daniel for his opening remarks. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking for now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like you said, my name is Daniel Schauer. I am the founder of Deepfake Stop. We are working to create the solution that was just described, so I won't say it again. We're also partnering with the National Science Foundation and the FBI to hopefully secure the chain of custody for digital multimedia evidence used in courts. So yeah, that's what I've been focused on for the last few weeks. I'm looking forward to a great discussion about the importance of protecting one's identity through the data that describes us all. This is Daniel Schauer. I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's just another perspective on the very vast contour that is the surface area of data dignity. Next up is Amarita Nanda. Amrita is a researcher at Abdi Institute, a public research organization based in Bangalore, India, with a focus on data stewardship for societal benefit. Her research books closely looks at ethical modes of community-oriented data governance, as well as policy pathways to enable a more equitable and trustworthy data economy. I'm turning the mic over to Amrita for her opening remarks now. This is Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Just a correction on my name. It's pronounced Amrita, not Amrita. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here and lovely to see such a great room. Yeah, looking forward to learning and also contributing and sort of unpacking what data dignity means to all of us.
Thanks so much, Amrita. Hopefully I said that better this time. I appreciate that. Apologies for the mispronunciation. Glad to have you with us. I appreciate your perspective. Okay, so next up, actually, Spencer, is there anybody else that I need to introduce? I know we had some sort of latecomers.
No, there's no one else, but someone did join us from the audience. I don't know if Pam wants to just give like a quick bio about themselves.
Okay, great. Pam, would you like to do so? The mic is yours.
Hi everyone. No real need for me to introduce myself. I just thought interesting discussion, so I'd hop up. I am a data privacy lawyer. I've been working in this space advising tech companies for the past 6 years. So maybe I'll have something to contribute, but looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Appreciate you joining us. All right, so I'm going to just do a quick round robin. I'd love to just ask everybody to sort of articulate data dignity, which was, I think rightly asked of, what do we mean by that? And I guess we're going to hear all different perspectives on that, but I'll just quickly go around the room and ask folks to share their perspective. I'm just going in order of how I see you guys right now. I've just refreshed my screen. So Christine, can I turn the mic first to you? What's your perspective of data dignity? What does that mean to you?
Oh, I love this question. So for me, I'm a patient. I live on Social Security disability, and it's a struggle to survive. And there are hundreds, thousands of millions of patients like me, kids that can't work, will never be able to work. And for me, data dignity really just means that I'm an equal partner in these things. Right now, most patients feel like they don't have a purpose in life and that they're a burden. But what actually is happening is that it's all of our data, it's all of our insights that are going into building new innovations and technologies and products, and yet we're left out of it struggling. And so for me, having data dignity means that I have a purpose, that the stigma around my illness is not going to, put me down or put me into a different position, but I'll actually be able to do things with my life. And I think we have to look at those people like me who aren't able to work and how they're going to be able to afford things, and even insurance. We can't get that without a job. So having data dignity to me is having a purpose, having a say, and having an equal stake in the innovations and therapies that come from the information that I provide. And that's about it for now. I'm Christine, and that's my perspective.
Thanks so much, Christine. And just one thing, I was pinged. I should have asked everybody on the panel and in the audience, just if we want to, I know there was a difficulty of sharing the room with others, but if folks want to just briefly ping others in to the room, just I know we're going to have a rich conversation. And so that feature was having some difficulty when we first began. Hopefully seems to have corrected on my side, and I can now invite folks. So if everybody wants to just take a moment and do that while we go around the room and answer this question, that would be great. And we'll just keep going. All right. And Julie, is that working for you now? And Spencer, can I just do a check and make sure it's not just me that feature has been re-enabled?
Yeah, it's completely working for me. I shared the room and pinged people.
Okay,
no
great.
problem.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't working for me in the beginning, so I just was able to do that. All right, hopefully all the new and improvements will also make the basic features work too. All right, Daniel, can I turn the mic to you? Your perspective, what does data dignity mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. So from my perspective, data dignity means that we basically have knowledge and ownership of the data that describes us, that could be used to impersonate us. That's an important one, especially as we participate more in platforms like Clubhouse, where we are lending our voices to a conversation. There is the risk that someone could record this and train an AI algorithm on how to sound just like Daniel Schauer. So if someone was to do that, I would expect that part of dignity would include my knowledge of that voice print existing. And personally, I want to have full ownership of those and make sure that they are always in my possession, even if I do grant a company the temporary rights to use it. So yeah, that's where I would sum it up in brief. My name is Daniel Schauer. I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much. Next, as I see you guys on the screen, Spencer, your perspective of data dignity.
So I'd say my perspective is kind of the fundamental change of ownership. And even though data isn't really a property or something that can be owned, if we think about it as like data as labor, while like you don't own the property of your labor, you still maintain the bargaining rights over it. And so if we think about data as labor, the fundamental change that data dignity brings is that somebody is able to bargain with it rather than companies or organizations that are collecting it bargaining for it on your behalf. So I think that fundamental change of who owns the data, where is the power structure, is kind of the root of data dignity. I'm Spencer, and I'm done speaking for now.
Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, so next, Mitch, I see you, and I'll pass the torch to you. Your perspective.
It's probably going to change by the time we're done with this particular room. For me, as a lawyer dealing with issues on both sides of the fence, whether it's personal issues or business issues, it comes down to transparency, to disclosure, to accountability, terms of service agreements. Do we really know, how our data is going to be used? That's at one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is, as a company that's acquiring data and using that data not only to market, but as Isaac mentioned earlier, which is something that always fascinated me, using that data to actually manipulate the consumer base. So it's more than marketing, it's actually changing people's mindsets. It's actually facilitating the change of our local, national, and global communities. And most people aren't even aware that this is happening. Daniel mentioned something that fascinates me, and I've actually written some articles about it, and that is who we're listening to, the video that we're watching, the podcast that we're listening to, the Clubhouse recording that we're trying to introduce as evidence in a court of law. Is it really Daniel who's participating in this conversation? And what we're seeing is the technology, and Daniel's aware of this, the technology out there is such that, frankly, none of us would be able to, without an expertise, a background expertise, none of us would be able to tell if that's a video of me explaining a business theory, if it's Daniel's voice in an audio. So from an authentication and foundational perspective of getting this evidence into a court of law, what I would like to see the legal profession do is actually heighten the requirements to authenticity and foundation so that when these issues are being resolved, the trier of fact, whether it's a jury or a judge, is actually putting the appropriate weight on the appropriate piece of evidence. It really is Daniel. It really is Isaac that made that statement, as opposed to a relatively inexpensive, believe it or not, fake deep video or audio that isn't accurate. It's not true, and it's designed to mislead. When you take that concept, and I'm wrapping this up, not only from the courtrooms, but to political discourse, to global decisions that have to do with what we do or don't do to help a particular country on the other side of the world. I think digital dignity, data dignity is just so important, and we need to all just become so much more aware of all the above as we also go into Web3 and the metaverse. Decentralized autonomous organizations, I get it, they're good, but the accountability and holding wrongdoers responsible in those types of platforms can be a challenge. So with the good comes the bad. My name's Mitch, and I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much, Mitch. Appreciate that perspective. Isaac, your perspective on data dignity. What does that mean from your perspective?
Yeah, I hope things don't get a little redundant because I would definitely echo what the previous 4 or 5 speakers had said. I mentioned earlier how not just like we traditionally think of data, kind of trying to be brief, but I guess I should also mention, including how we traditionally think of data, but different, because the way that we might traditionally think of data is like, is somebody going to steal my identity? And we would have to think of that even pre the large use of the internet. But then that became more and more of an issue the more we became digitized as a society. But now, when we're like so digitized, it's just like all the things that were mentioned. It's more and more a possibility of somebody stealing your identity for different reasons, both in the traditional sense and just to misrepresent you on the internet, like we've been talking about. I think it's really important too to have just a better understanding of digital reality. I've had some cases in the past, both myself and some business colleagues years ago, where people would slander me on the internet using, fake accounts and things like that, just over like some business deals that went the wrong way, and unfortunate things that can happen with bad luck and things like that. I've also had situations where I was like digitally blackmailed years ago, and if we get a better way to handle that, so that if somebody does try to misrepresent a person on the internet with some kind of fake digital identity, then it can be authenticated pretty quickly, where it'll be recognized as that's just malicious intent, that's just fake stuff, whatever. Then that will become less and less. I think it has slightly been more managed than it was maybe about 10 years ago, when people were just kind of realizing the power that they had. It was kind of like the Wild West a few years ago, when everybody was realizing, oh, look, I can do this and that with digital information. I think it's already trending in the right direction. But anyway, not to get too off topic, I would say digital dignity means that I own and have the rights to everything that represents me, and that it can be validated, and like was mentioned earlier, and I said earlier, that information isn't going to be used to manipulate me, especially without my knowledge. Because, also to kind of reiterate what I said in the introduction, the information is usually taken not even just only in the traditional ways, but also to manipulate our behavior, and not just with our knowledge, including just unconscious ways, and including ways that we don't understand, including ways when we're like, how am I interacting with the world in a different way than I did a few years ago, and have new habits, new thoughts, new ideas than I used to, and I wasn't a conscious agent in changing my behavior. It happened unconsciously, because the algorithms somehow decided that was better for the algorithms and not for me. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm Isaac.
Thanks so much, Isaac. And Amin, same question, data dignity, your perspective.
All right, thank you. I take account of data dignity as the ability for users to not only own what they have, but also have a facility to grow in an environment, to cooperate, and be able to take account of like what comes, especially how the use case of data after the point where where entities back in like in terms of where Web 2 has facilitated, and centralizing a lot of the ownership of the data, going on towards how we go against use help facilitating how we go ahead and build on how we use data out on the other case. I was referencing towards, I think about on the take. I think about like how centralization has tended to reward the people that have like used our data and privately benefit from the use cases, and I'm backing up on Isaac's point, really subconsciously creating behavior that would not necessarily that only would benefit the needs of the people owning the data, rather than creating the chance for a facility for users to have a say on how that data could be utilized. So when I take account of working in working in the crypto space personally, and looking at the forefront on where decentralization comes into place, I think most of the I take account of like the waves of the internet, building the infrastructure on where how data was facilitated and how the structures were being placed to help facilitate communication, and where we've had a chance to be able to facilitate these conversations like we do it right now, and in finding a way to help incentivize incentivize people's labors on helping to contribute an honest use of those platforms. I think about I think about the case study earlier on with like Wikipedia and Encarta. If you guys remember Encarta, it was initially like the encyclopedia of how we collectively share knowledge. It had a way better product in the beginning and with better content, but a lot of the use cases was essentially held proprietarily within the gates of the people behind the platform. And when I look at Wikipedia, it was sort of like a half-baked use case from the start, but its reputation was built by the use case and contribution of community members that contributed to the platform, and it eventually outpaced Encarta, and it became the dominant encyclopedia of the internet. And and I think like taking account of like that community first approach on how how people like contributed to data and what have you. I think I take account of like with Chris Dixon, with thinking about the next era of the internet, on understanding about reflecting on the future of network governance, and having a place to where we can take power from centralized figures on choosing who gets to build and benefit, to network users that get to collectively decide how those algorithms dictate the reward of behaviors, and how we and how we use and collectively big data back um, to the users of the base. So I think when I take account of the Web3, I take account of Web3 and its emergence, and as it's coming much more mature in the use cases. I just think of data dignity as empowering users on bringing community first focus on helping users create an environment to participate and bring power back to the users, like not only contributing to the growing platforms that we get have a say, but also being able to be incentivized, and being able to validate and verify information directly to any use case, whether it's going to be through NFTs, whether it's through decentralized finance. I just take account of ensuring that whatever use case is being in place, that the users have the first for have the say on collectively seeing how they can benefit from these platforms. And that's my thesis. I don't want to take up more time. This is Amin. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Amin. Appreciate your perspective. Hey, Matt, same question. Your perspective on data dignity.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. The way that I understand that term is quite broadly. I understand it as an attempt to sort of reorganize the data economy or the power structures around data that shift the balance of power. And so, one kind of wrinkle I would add to this is, a lot of one way of thinking about what it means to shift the balance of power is to shift it from like institutions to individuals. But I think that framing is too simple because the individualistic kind of framing is actually how individuals lost so much power. So one way of thinking about the reason why each of us have so little power compared to the internet platforms that we interact with is it's precisely because we've been negotiating with them on an individualistic basis. They are able to sort of divide and conquer all the individuals that they're interacting with because the individuals are acting as individuals and aren't organizing. So I think that basically thinking about new kind of structures of shared governance over data are crucial to the equation of, or crucial to the agenda of rebalancing power over information and ultimately giving people more agency. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Matt. Next, Alice, your perspective. Data dignity. What does that mean from your perch? Alice, I think.
Here I am. I'm finally off. So I apologize. I'm going to have to drop off soon. So from my end, data dignity, I think we're going to see evolution of our digital humanity with some sort of legal definition of a digital human being emerging. This is going to be mitigated at a country jurisdiction level. I don't think that, it's realistic that we would create a technology that would bypass government jurisdiction, unfortunately. So hopefully the technology will have sufficient checks and balances so that human data can migrate. In the same way that we have refugees currently, we might have data refugees, and that the data that will have some sort of a treaties that respect human autonomy, human freedom, and that's the data dignity. It's that there would be that the web would evolve to place a premium value on human life and human transactions that support human life. That's and I'm Alice. I'm done speaking.
Alice, thank you so much for that perspective. Amrita, your perspective on data dignity.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. And I guess because everyone's brought up such important points, to begin with, I'd echo what I think most of the speakers have said so far. I suppose I'd use this time to maybe highlight two important issues that I think that our notion of data dignity should perhaps foreground. And the first, which has also been mentioned already, is the sort of epistemic injustice, which is at the root of a lot of the excuse me, I have a bad throat. A lot of the problems that we see with the data economy today is a problem of knowing, of not knowing, and of the kind of visibility that communities don't have. I think the second would be the sort of injustice of agency, which I think Matt also mentioned, which is that a sort of individualistic framing of both policy and the governance of the data systems that we exist in, the AI systems we exist in, the framing being incredibly individualistic and not really recognizing or making room for the fact that data and its value is largely in the fact that it's a relational good and is ultimately a social issue. So the sort of antidote that we're looking for needs to be rooted in a notion of the collective and in a sense of community. So, and that's also a lot of the work that we've been doing is looking at data stewards, which we envision as trusted intermediaries that can perhaps, be one piece of the puzzle towards affording communities with greater agency over their data and, being able to sort of glean some societal and more public benefits or value from it. as opposed to what has so far in its inception been limited to sort of profit-driven private sector benefits. I'll leave it at that for now, but yeah, happy to get into some of these questions further. I'm Amrita, and done speaking for now.
Thank you so much, Amrita. Next up, more of a read. Your perspective, data dignity. What do you think that means?
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I think that what is actually happening, that data is basically a form of property, and that's what we're seeing being established by a lot of these data privacy laws. They are establishing basically rights for individuals in data. And so data is something that's been historically monetized and sold by these large companies. So it's a form of property because they're generating revenue on it. It's kind of like, right, oil, right? It's one of the most valuable assets that a lot of businesses have. And so I think with the changing laws, it's giving more rights in those assets to consumers and individuals who are actually generating that asset. And I think, hopefully, I would like to see more of these laws take shape in a way that will allow individuals and consumers to have more control over the ways that they share these assets and are able to monetize it so that they get a share in the monetization of the data. So that's what I would like to see, that more systems and regulations are put in place, as well as just business ways that businesses operate that give consumers a share of, like, hey, you can have flexibility. You want to share this certain data or portion of data to this company, that's fine. We'll give you such and such amount from it. And some of these projects have already existed. For example, back in the last go around in like 2018, when there was a lot of excitement around the blockchain space, one of the car companies, I don't remember which one it was, they had done like a beta project where it would, the smart car would be gathering tracking data from the use of the vehicle, and it would be paying out the user some portion of cryptocurrency for that data. So I think there's ways to do this, and I think that's where we should really be heading. This is more varied. I'm finished speaking for now.
Thanks so much, Marguerite. Appreciate that perspective. And Jenny, I want to turn the mic to you, your perspective on the meaning of data dignity.
Sure. I think a lot of great information. I'm not sure there is a collective definition at this point. I think it's like technology, it's an emerging definition. I think when I think of data dignity, the concept that I think that it would be great to move towards is data integrity at inception, which means that you're not thinking about how data is going to be accessed and used after the fact. You're actually building it into the front end. And I think that's why so many countries and states, even in the US, are really struggling with governance, is because they're doing this after the fact, where technology has all gone so far down the pike in development that if you put too many controls or the right controls in place, you really hinder how business is being done. And there's a heavy balance between allowing businesses to operate and also protecting the access. I think now more than ever in government over the past 30 years, I've seen that data used to be just something that was part of what you did, but it wasn't the main part of what you did. And now I think data is a critical asset. It's necessary for providing public services, but it's also one of the most valuable assets that you have. And from a cybersecurity point of view, I think that's another big change. Data used to be sold very easily and nobody really cared about it. But now, since it has such a high monetary value, both individuals and the public are interested in this. But unfortunately, your personal information, your identity information is the key to getting into most technology. So some sort of information that identifies you allows access into the technology you either need to use or want to use. So until that key changes, our identity is going to be at risk in any data associated with that. And that's why the governance has been, so difficult. So I think that would be my kind of perspective coming from a cyber point of view of where the risks are and how difficult it is to manage it at this point. Jenny out.
Thanks so much, Jenny. And I see we got Amir back. So Amir, I'm going to pass it to you in just a second. And I apologize. I'm trying to remember who Lana Kies is. I know you're on our panel, but I guess the mic is yours. I see you on the screen.
Oh, hi. Oh, yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, data dignity from my perspective. Well, so I tend to look at it in a very, very specific kind of way. When I think about it, and I think we're all essentially converging to the same point, but I think about it very specifically. And for me, it's not really just data dignity. It's about behavioral biometric protection and or neurocognitive integrity. Because I guess the parallel that I can draw, which I kind of used earlier actually when we were onboarding somebody into the organization that we have, was what I was telling them is to consider, for example, the voting rights of 1965. And the voting rights of 1965, it basically made it illegal to practice like to prohibit people from voting because of like bogus things like illiteracy and or other things. But but citizenship was given to Black Americans or descendants of slaves with the 14th Amendment, right? But this was 100 years ago, right? And it wasn't until the voting rights like 65 that it was actually really enforced, because again there were no penalties put in place for people who would essentially ignore the fact that individuals were now given rights, right? And so what you have is a difference between two different ecologies. One where we're just discovering that through inside of this literary ecology that people are equal, and we're essentially writing laws that will one day, I guess, will find the confidence as people or a nation to actually put in place the constraints that actually make those laws valid. Hence, the 100-year later voting rights. And so when we say data dignity, for me, it kind of sounds like the 14th Amendment, and not without the Voting Rights Act with the protection, right? Because in the difference here between data and behavioral biometric data is the fact that we're still, I feel like we're still talking about data privacy and the importance of that, because yes, privacy is a human right, but privacy is a human right if you live in an information ecology where your information, that which you essentially provide voluntarily, can essentially be used against you or whatever, or for whatever reason. But what we're not seeing, again, it's like looking into the future a little bit, is what we're not seeing is that we are actually no longer in just an information ecology. We are actually in a cybernetic ecology, which involves feedback loops. And essentially, those feedback loops are controlled by companies who control the machine learning systems that essentially, create the psychographic profiles of ourselves. Now, this is not all bad if you're only considering the data, again, that you're essentially volunteering online. But behavioral biometric data is not volunteered, it's subconscious, right? I mean, if I'm typing on a keyboard, I'm not necessarily conscious of how fast or the difference in cadence from one word to the next, right? But actually, if I can write an algorithm that can measure the cadence from one word to the next, because as I'm writing a word and I'm thinking about it, there are sentiments that are essentially related to said word and they're related to my arousal state, right? And so that's just a tiny fraction of the potential of behavioral biometrics. That's not even bringing up something like your nervous system, literally, in terms of wearable devices, facial recognition, cadence as you're walking, like gait as you're walking, I should say. And all of these data points that are now fully accessible, and you are basically absolutely naked from a subconscious point of view inside a cybernetic ecology. Now, this might seem like it's like far away, but I mean, personally, considering the work that we do in the last like couple of weeks since this invasion with Russia, we're looking at it like this is like what's happened with Russia essentially is going to put back this kind of work maybe several years, because now we're going to have a bifurcation of the cybernetic ecology in total, right? East and west, right? And so you're going to have a shitload of cybernetic threats and vulnerabilities now essentially looking at each other's ecologies. So, so data, so when I thought, so instead of like, for me, it's not even data dignity, it is literally, individual behavioral biometrics protection as a fundamental constitutional right, because we have to acknowledge that we are in actual cybernetic ecology, and that's a different environment from just an information ecology. And the threats are, especially if you're younger, because like an adult or in somebody who's 18 plus right now still has an opportunity to essentially, just ignore things, right? But if my son, is like 13, my daughter was 12, I can literally see the impact of like the virtual reality toys that they have. In the next version of the virtual reality, whatever Facebook thing, is going to have sensors that are looking at his behavioral biometrics in real time. What does Facebook need that for? Obviously, because they're going to try to optimize experiences to improve their bottom line. So this is an existential threat. So yeah, I'll stop there. Cheers.
Thanks, Manuel. And you raised so many important issues that are part of this whole realm. And I just want to mention there's a virtual public whiteboard that's pinned to the top. Please feel free to follow along. For those listening and those on the panel, just know that there is an ethnographic sort of constellation that is being woven into some sort of a symphony at some point of knowledge, and so thanks for contributing to that. So just share that, as I mentioned at the beginning, we would, go far and wide into the contours, and it would mean many different things to different ones of the panel that would be exposing pieces, and we are also following along and developing this knowledge, not just for us, but also for all of you and for anybody publicly. Amir, I want to give you the mic. Thank you for your patience. I know we didn't get your opening remarks. Love to get those. And then we're also all kind of pontificating on the question of data dignity. What do we think that means? So Amir, the mic is yours. We hope to hear you.
Hello everyone, can you hear me now? Is it better?
It's excellent.
I'm so sorry for any inconvenience.
No worries,
I'm so
Amir.
sorry.
It's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Actually, first of all, I'm so glad to be here as a first time, I think. And I don't, thank you so much for your kind intro. And also, I so appreciate from Spencer for inviting me to this room, this excellent room. And, I believe that data plays a crucial role in our lives. And I think more often than not, we share it as free without our permission to others. And as a, researcher, a little researcher who has worked with machine learning and data, I would say data is key for every step of this process, to have the accurate result with high accuracy. And especially in training data and evaluating it. And I think that it's time to have have a law against using the data without permission. And the obvious example of this is that when you have searched on Google for a pair of shoes from a brand that you wish, a minute later or a day after, you will see an advertisement of the exact pair of shoes on maybe Amazon or some apps like this, and you just show, oh, this is the shows that I just search it. So this is my opinion about the data dignity. And I really like the definition that you have already in the website named Consuli.net. Is great. I would like to read it. Data dignity is honoring that you own your data, and when others wish to use your data, you are alerted. It's great, I think, and able to easily set permissions that you agreeable to you, and additionally, when there are commercial benefits derived from the use of your data, you are paid for the use, including the opportunity to donate your data. I think this is the completed definition of data dignity. Here, that's it. I'm so sorry. I'm so got some stress. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Amir. And I will just say, I think that there's other contours too that have been raised over the course of time. This idea that, that our data is not used against us. I think, there's the other side of that we probably could expand. And thank you for your kind words. That said, I want to come back to, the most pressing issues now. What should we be doing right now? Are we heading in the right direction, the wrong direction? How do we course correct? I just want to throw those, broad points into the sphere here and ask our panelists. We'll go back around the room. I'm just going to refresh, and I'll just go in the order I see you all. And I know we have some folks on stage. Maybe I should just check in with Spencer and Julie and say, I see we have Jay in the that's raised their hand and is in the on stage. Julie or Spencer, is this the time that we want to introduce that?
Yeah, absolutely. Jay's been waiting patiently for a little while, so it'd be great to get his input.
Okay, great. We'll take Jay's input and then we'll come back to the panel. Jay, the mic is yours.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I wanted to give a shout out to Amin and CNC. Thanks for the shout out, always appreciate it. I like the room that you guys are hosting. So far as data dignity is concerned, I believe that everyone here on the panel has pretty much run the gambit of my thoughts and sentiments. Data ownership, who owns it, what happens to it after somebody has, gone post-mortem, to bring up an old topic, is something that I also wanted to bring to light of, well, we have the right to exist on the internet. What about the right to be forgotten? So I'll just drop that in there.
Thanks so much, Jay, for that. Okay, so back to our panel. Again, the question is, most pressing issues now. What should we be doing now? Heading in the right direction, wrong direction? How do we course correct? Christine, can I turn the mic first to you?
Of course, I'm happy to chime in on this one. I want to say first, we all are talking about how to explain this, and I like to really attribute it to the music industry, right? And really just put it out there. My data is my song. And if you want to use my data, there are royalties to be paid. And that being said, I think we really need to educate. We talk about this all the time, but the education and awareness around what data actually is and what it means and the value of that collective data is one that really needs to be brought out to our different patient communities. We're not going to solve any problems with any illnesses if we continue to keep things bottled up and private and with this stigma around illness. So I think one of the main things, it's the education, again, and the legislation are the two key points. But in order to get that legislation, I think we really need to start with the education. So I'm Christine. I have a million other ideas, but those are my main ones for now until everybody gets up to speed and is on the same page as we discuss these things. So I'm Christine, my perspective.
Christine, can I just follow up and ask, do you perceive we're heading in the right direction, wrong direction? Do you think we're progressing? What's your sentiment?
I kind of feel like we're stuck. I think that patient communities are not really aware of what the value of their data. And we have situations where people participate in clinical trials out of desperation and they're not realizing what they're actually giving up. So, there's a lot of conversations, but as far as actually getting out there and educating these populations around their data, I don't see much movement on that side of it. I hate to say that, but honestly, we have these conversations in industry, and I mean in meetings all the time, but this information doesn't get out to the general public or the general population, and we have all of the discussions around data before we even involve patients, and those things need to change. So I'm hopeful, but I do think a lot of our industry, we talk about educating people, and yet nobody wants to put money into actually pushing that education and awareness. And I think that needs to change as well. So, does that
Thanks for
answer your question?
No, it does, and I think where everybody's coming from different industries, so it's great to get the healthcare, and also the patient advocacy perspective. So thanks for sharing, Christine. Daniel, can I pass the mic to you and ask the same question? Most pressing issues. What should we be doing? Are we heading in the wrong direction? How do we course correct? The mic's yours.
Yeah, I think the first course of are we heading in the right direction? I'm going to take that question first. I think that we are decidedly heading in the wrong direction in terms of having people have the tools available to actually protect their own digital identity and everything that goes into that. I think awareness is certainly on the rise, and that is a step in the right direction. But the people that want to steal your data, steal your digital identity, are making ground fast a lot faster than the good guys are. So that's kind of where I think the field stands. The most important thing you can do today is, if you are someone who is a content creator, make sure that you protect things like your stream keys, of course, and furthermore, make sure that you have good records of all the content that you've pushed out there. Once the solution that I'm making does become available, you can, of course, go to the website to check out more about that at deepfakestop.com. But yeah, it's not commercially ready yet to go. So until a tool like that is made available, I'm not sure that there will be a great answer that will be a good solution across the board. That's the short answer. This is Daniel. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Daniel, and appreciate understanding where we are from the perspective of the tools. And yeah, definitely lots to do there. Spencer, I'm going to turn the mic to you, your perspective.
Well, one thing that I would bring up is when we talk about course correction, data dignity as a concept is an entire course correction for the internet as we know it. As the internet was being created, they had this idea of like, let's make everything free. But we also want to make money. So it's like, how do you do that? And then that's how kind of advertisements came about. So when we think about progress on this, we're thinking about literally redefining everything about the internet in its entirety, which is obviously no easy feat. It's a miracle that we even have the internet to begin with. But I do think there are some small waves being made. Number of organizations that we've been talking to have been like pushing out really relevant research, really relevant findings. And I think lawmakers are slowly starting to kind of add people to their staff that are at least semi-aware of some of these issues. So I do think there is partial progress, but then again, I could just be in this room and being really hopeful, really optimistic. So it's hard to say.
Thanks for your perspective, Spencer. And Mitch, same question, just your perspective on the most pressing issues right now. What should we be doing? Heading in the wrong direction? How do we course correct?
Absolutely. Any decisions and any conversation we're having right now is premised upon data as we understand it in today's world. And I think the term data, how it's being acquired, how it's being used, how it's being manipulated, good or bad, it's changing at an exponential rate. And so, unfortunately, the objective reality from my perspective is that what we're talking about is just the tip of the iceberg, and we are not even close to being able to circle this iceberg with our with our safety boats, with our life rafts. When you look at politics, when you look at finances, when you look at lobbyists, when you look at big corporations putting profits over people, what happens is all of our concerns and all of our conversations, unfortunately, oftentimes remain just that, conversations and concerns. And so what I see happening is because the dollars are so large, I actually see this problem getting worse and worse. And every piece of legislation that we've seen at the state and federal level to try to curb the data, integrity, data dignity, whatever the terminology is, what we're seeing are compromises being made where, in my opinion, 90% of the outcome favors the ongoing use of data, which most consumers aren't aware of, and there are some compromised decisions that are made that really aren't solving the current problems. What they're doing and what we've seen in the law is that oftentimes with emerging technology like this and issues, we're 10, 15, 20 years behind the times. And so unfortunately, when I put my objective reality glasses on, what I'm seeing is that problem is then 10x'd because of Web3, which I'm a big fan of Web3, metaverse, and everything else in between. But I see this new technology layered on top of traditional data integrity and data use and data algorithms and everything else in between. It's only 100x more complicated. It is now not just a local, but it's a global issue. And when you look at international law, coupled with what's going on in DC, coupled with corporate rights and desires for profits over people, you see a situation where I think it's only going to get a lot worse. And frankly, I don't see a favorable outcome to many of the concerns that I'm hearing implied in the conversations here on stage, and probably what the audience, both live and recorded, have. I don't see an easy solution. So I'm interested in receiving any information from anyone as to how we can all fix this. But I will say, just wrapping up, it starts with us, right? It starts with how are we leading by example? How are we educating our clients, our patients, our family, our friends, our neighbors? What can we do in each of our respective occupations and professions to help shine a light on solutions? What I tell my clients is read the terms of service agreements with all of the different sites that you're using, whether it's uploading an NFT to an NFT platform, whether or not it's signing a digital contract on a business transaction, whatever it might be. Read the terms of service agreement, because that's what's going to control if there's a conflict between state and federal law and the TOS agreement. You don't want to be that person spending 2 years in court and hundreds of thousands of dollars proving to the world that you're right with respect to that conflict. And so if you know ahead of time what you're getting into, I think that helps all of us make good, informed, objective decisions on the things that we do that affect the use of our data moving forward. So I think it starts with us, and it starts with rooms like this, having an open conversation about these issues, and hopefully working together as a community to make the right decisions, to do the right things. But what might be right for you may not be right for me, and that's the issue, and that's the challenge. I think that we're gonna have to deal with moving forward. So thanks for asking me to unmute.
Thanks so much, Mitch. And I appreciate the sort of, clear-eyed perspective that you're bringing to the conversation, recognizing the first step is recognition. God help us if we all have to read the terms of service, though. I'm just saying that I'll be curious to get Matt's perspective on that, if it's sort of in the divide and conquer paradigm. Anyway, I'll try to avoid the commentary along the way here. Isaac, I do want to give you the mic for the same question. Most pressing issues, what should we be doing right now? Are we heading in the right, wrong direction? And how do we course correct? Isaac, the mic is yours.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I feel like the answer is both. In some regards, we're improving compared to just a few years ago. We've made some progress in terms of the culture, and in terms of what we're able to do and what we're able to understand in these areas, and just even having conversations like these. Like, I remember when I was
first kind of coming into this information myself, it just seemed like, oh, there's only a handful of people that have any idea about this. And so it is something in the right direction to, just see, dozens of people just in a room like this in Clubhouse, having this kind of awareness, this kind of conversation. And of course, it's not just here. It's all over the place. But the difficulty even along those lines is, as we're seeing today, we're making progress in understanding these things, of course, like we've talked about today, but it's difficult because it's still not very well defined. And of course, that's not saying anything against anything anyone said today, but it's just that type of issue where it doesn't get defined very well. And just like anything that you might talk about in your day-to-day life or in clubhouse rooms, definitions are so important because you can't really get anywhere without an agreed upon definition. Like, people can call each other all kinds of slanderous names. You're racist, you're this or that, you're whatever, based upon things that don't have a very well agreed upon definition. And anyway, I mentioned that because we're going through that transition right now with so many things, and this is one of those top things where it's like, once we get it more well defined, then I think that will be like a launch pad to being able to handle it a lot better. So we're making some progress, and there's some course correction that needs to happen there. I would say we're making almost progress in the wrong direction. So the right direction would be sort of like on the individual level and communities like this having more of these kind of conversations. The wrong direction would be at the more big tech and corporate level, and even to some degree at the legal level, where we're like, okay, we're figuring out what this stuff is, and we want it done right by us. But then the big tech companies are like, well, we're beholden to our stockholders, so we have a legal obligation to do what will bring them the most profit. Sorry, that's the way it is. So you're not getting your data dignity. Too bad, so sad. You can just opt out or log off or delete your account if you don't like it. Like, that's basically what we get from the big tech companies. And not just that, like, that's rude, but the big issue there is they're just doing it more and more so, and they're doing this more secretively, and more having themselves protected from giving us what we want, which is data dignity and those kind of things that we've talked about. And I did want to mention too, sometimes it's not talked about enough how the real reason that there's this huge push, especially in the last year or a few years, for things to be in the VR space and metaverse and those kind of things. I'm not against those things, but it's funny because you don't really see that from mainly regular people like us. Like wow, these goggles are awesome, or this game in the metaverse is awesome. There's some of that, like everything, but it's mainly a push or pull from the top down, or top pulling us up from companies like Meta. And the reason is because that's where they can really get our biometric data, or not if they can get us in a VR situation, and see us in a fear situation, and what's going to happen in terms of literally our pupils dilating. How is that going to help them to not just understand the human condition better? Like, we might like that for a university to know that information, but how is that going to help companies like Facebook better manipulate people into huge herds to do whatever their algorithm says is best for them and their bottom line. So anyway, all that's to say, on the individual level, because of awareness and conversations like this, there's some improvement. But on the corporate level, it's a battle, and they're making things worse. So I'm Isaac. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Isaac. And just recognizing the time, I'm just going to ask our fellow panelists to sort of do a little time check on yourself. Thank you very much. Matt, I'm going to turn the mic over to you for your answer to the same question. And just FYI, as we're going through this last group, it will be closing out. We'll take any final questions. But we're going to aim real hard to get close to ending on time. So Matt, I'm going to turn the mic to you, not to try and short step your answer, but I did want to just do a reality check on this thing called the clock. Okay, Matt, the mic's yours.
No, I'll be brief. I think that there are lots of things that we need to do to get to a better outcome in all of this, and I wouldn't say I'm optimistic necessarily. I'm realistic, but I think there are certain encouraging things that I see, including more people just being aware of this issue. And if you look at like the policy being made, for example, in the EU, there's a real recognition of certain things that can be done to make the data economy work better and make it more fair and reduce the power that platforms have. A good example of this is the recent draft of the Data Act, which is quite an interesting piece of proposed legislation, quite a good one, I think, that would limit the power of like IoT companies. So there's some movement in the right direction. At the same time, the challenges are absolutely huge, and so we all need to keep our eye on this question.
Thanks so much, Matt. Amin, same question. Mic's yours.
All right, thank you, and I'll be brief as well. I mean, I'm glad the awareness has been climbing up a lot more in terms of how we choose to like store our data, especially like with the general data protection regulation from the European Union. At least there's been at least a signaling a firm stance on data privacy and security, especially at a time when people are entrusting their personal data with custodians and with insecurities of like breaches at a daily occurrence right now. So I think I take account like with the comments in terms of like corporate responsibility. It's more reactionary in terms of where a lot of our use of our data and our protection is enclosed, and we're gonna find a lot more of our solutions coming from the bottom up rather than we need to find more solutions from the community up. And the thing I take away from Web3, it's at least it's a build and a reaction onto the responsibilities and the impact of how data ownership has reshifted and trajected our conversation and where our contributions lie and where we place our data. I wouldn't say the Web3 is a silver bullet, but I feel it is a much better approach into ensuring that data ownership is built in at the front end, and that comes first, and that every person that contributes the work has ownership and stake on where that lies and where their work lies. So I think we definitely have a lot more work to go, but I'm cautiously optimistic in which new solutions and much more development on that front will help curtail data surveillance, data sovereignty, and bring much more integrity on how we contribute and store data in a much more in a beneficial collective way. This is Amin, I'm done speaking.
Thanks so much, Amin. And Amrita, I want to turn the mic to you for the same question. The mic's yours.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and great to hear everyone's perspective on this. I'll be as brief as I can. As to your question on whether we're headed in the right direction, I think that my answer perhaps changes every day. Having looked at sort of questions of data governance for a while now, I think there's definitely two sides to it. On the one hand, we see a lot of sort of bottom-up movements. We see stores like data cooperatives or personal data stores or data exchanges cropping up that it's optimistic. It makes us optimistic to see that there are people actively taking ownership of their data, and the questions around capacity and increasing data literacy in most communities, which is something that I think remains confusing to most people today, even experts. Seeing these sort of movements coming about is definitely something that makes us optimistic. At the same time, I think that it's a similar situation on the policy side, where there's definitely traction, and there's sort of you see governments across the world sort of moving towards finding their own pathways to either reducing the sort of big tech monopoly, or more broadly the private sector monopoly on citizens' data, and at the same time, some of them trying to sort of enable these intermediaries or more bottom up ways to govern data. I think that in conjunction with that, there's also still a sort of individualistic view over data. There's that I still see, I think, inklings of that sort of prioritization of privacy and the onus of that privacy and that literacy still being on the individual or the citizen, which is, I think, a little bit of a dangerous path to go down. So, to cut my answer short a little bit, I think yes and no. I think the important thing is that these conversations are ongoing and definitely more active than ever right now. So, yeah, yes and no, headed in the right and wrong direction in both ways. But hopefully, it's a path that as an ecosystem or as a society we can figure out together soon.
Amrita, thank you so much. And before I turn the mic to Jenny, I'm just going to say thank you all for participating. I'm going to be turning the mic and the moderation over to Julie and Spencer to close this out. Been very stimulating. I know that the public whiteboard, I just want to reiterate, all this conversation is being captured, and there are some proposed draft legislation that has emerged over the course of the last number of months, and I just want to invite participation, recognizing that that's going to be so much of what's necessary in addition to technology, getting the legislation right, thinking about that in a way that can be global, since data are global. At any rate, just want to say thanks a lot. And Julie and Spencer, the moderation is yours. And Jenny, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn the mic to you, and then I'm going to quietly leave. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Sure. Thanks, Elizabeth. This has been a really great room. I think the everybody's been talking about it, and certainly what Amrita and Isaac said about the companies that are existing now, the way they're building technology, it's built for profit. So that model I don't see changing. And even though there are digital controls and rules in place, the penalties are not big enough for them to really change their behavior, because they'll just pay the penalty. But I do think what's happening is there is a convergence of people being much more aware of this because of all the cyber incidents that are happening and then the impact that's happening. So I think people are more aware of it, but we still have to deal with the choices that are being made and the rules that are being made of when there's conflicts. When a certain rule is going to help a large percentage of the population, but it inadvertently hurts another smaller percentage of the population, are those rules going to be acceptable? So I think the conflicts that happen with the different types of data and how it impacts consumers and individuals and patients, those are really where the kind of stalemates happen. But I think we are moving in the right direction, and with anything else, we'll go up and down and backwards and forwards until equilibrium happens. And with the metaverse and everything coming up, I think it's going to be a very volatile area for the next couple of years. Jenny out.
Hey everyone, Spencer taking over for Elizabeth. I know we're at time here, so if you've got to drop off, feel free to do so. We're just going to finish kind of the closing statements, talk to a couple people from the audience, and then wrap up the room. So with that being said, Manuel, want to pass it to you. we're just talking about what's next. Where's the consciousness level at? Yeah.
I think the question was like, what do we do next, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I look at it again on both sides. I look at both like on the conscious voluntary data procurement side. I mean, as far as like the platforms are concerned, and I look at it in terms of the behavior biometric side, and on the existing paradigm, which is the voluntary data that you use essentially in social networks and or these companies that are essentially trying to create psychographic profiles. Obviously, they're not going to change our business models. They're just going to increase our capabilities. I think TikTok is probably one of the most dynamic platforms with regards to capturing fully, kind of like your intent and interest in real time kind of deal. So that's going to continue. So I think the fight there is obviously to try and to get people compensated for their data, whatever they provide. I think that has to continue in order to, if anything, to create more awareness about the importance of data in the first place, so that people can essentially begin to understand what it means in terms of literacy. And so, because I feel like the real major paradigm shift in terms of data literacy has to do with understanding the impact on or sovereign agency, pretty much. And here is where behavior biometrics data become the next paradigm of technocultural literacy for what we call in our organization intelligence amplification, because we're talking about, again, if we're going to live in a cybernetic ecology, which is what's really is the big major sign here, right, is that we are fully moving and committing to living in a cybernetic ecology. And cybernetics implies control and feedback. And wherever there's control and feedback, there's someone with the control to push. Now, you either want to be able to leverage your own behavior biometrics data in your closed loop so that you can essentially improve your own experience, hence intelligence amplification, or institutions are going to continue to apply artificial intelligence to fully comprehend and predict your neurocognitive dynamics. And if you're essentially born into said system, then your ability to essentially create the cognitive space to even begin to cultivate a psychology and or a psyche is going to be impossible. Therefore, we're going to have the perfect system for slavery. So I think these two paths, the line has to be drawn between these two different avenues, and awareness has to be obviously increased by virtue of people literacy around what it's worth for them to know the value of their own data. Cheers.
Wow. Really interesting stuff. It's kind of almost approaching a point where we can't live without influence.
Precisely.
Yeah. Super interesting. I'm going to pass the mic to Amir. Kind of, do you think we're heading in the right direction? Where does data dignity stand at now? Yeah, passing it to you.
Thank you. There are some great points actually. I think most precious issue is that data is power, and that power can be used for good or bad things. For instance, the COVID-19 pandemic comes with a daily bombardment of data, like location, number of new cases, number of tests, number of deaths, and so on. And it's like a battleground of information. And this information actually generated by like medical research in its institute will be valuable to foreign countries, and I think that the accuracy and protection of our data must be treated as a like priority, and as we continue to provide timely and precise information to those who make significant decisions, data must be treated as a critical point. Yeah, that's it. That's my opinion.
Great. Well, I noticed we have two people from the audience, Sergio and Vic. Want to pass it over to them, see if they've got questions, and then we can kind of wrap up the room. We'll start with Sergio.
Yes, thank you. I'm part of industries. I have a clinic in Switzerland. We collect all data of our user. These data are very important because are healthcare data. Then we use this data for make they call it the digital twin, and with artificial intelligence, we see the trend of the future of health of our patients. Now, these data are very important. We don't share with anyone. That's important for our scientists to use this data only for a question. Then the scientists can make a new patterns for a new idea, so a new opportunity for collect data all together. For example, with the Bluetooth bottle, we can see how many water the patient drink before take a drug. That's very important for pharmacodynamics. More data together, the scientists can make a new research, a new scientific publish, but no one have data because these data are closed, protected, and anonymized, and so on, because they are very important. But at the moment, more health data are collected from a company of mobile phone like Apple or Huawei. If you go in Huawei Sport or Huawei Health, there is a huge information about they use your data anonymized every day. Then that's very important to know what's happened with our data. Um, the last Apple update for health, Apple Health, less 7 days before, um, they say they can connect every or more app on your phone with Apple Health, like Runtastic, MyFitnessPal, and so on. They collect data from with Apple Health, and they send the data to Apple. In this moment, it's very important to know who manage your data, who manage its data. This is my perspective.
Really interesting. I'm not sure if you were here earlier, but one of our panelists, Alice Rathjen, I think would be like a really good person to connect with. She does a lot of thinking about digital identity, especially within healthcare. So I think that she would be definitely a great resource. I would recommend listening to the replay if you missed it, because I think she has a lot of similar thoughts about existing on the internet and especially around your health data. So that being said, I'm going to pass it to Vic, another person from the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Spencer, and thanks to the panel actually for this opportunity to come and speak. Particularly, I think on the topic data dignity, and I believe that this is long overdue. In view of the fact that we are literally swimming with data, and our data is literally being sold online and are actually being used actually against us, basically. And it's really quite sad because big tech has been able to leverage this for so many years, and has now been seen actually as the pride chain of of just the whole world generally. And governments actually are quite slow in trying to stop them in their tracks because they can't. Why? Because they are more knowledgeable in understanding the nuances of developing these strategies as compared to the regulators who are in charge to stop them. But the reason actually why I came up was just actually to piggyback on what was said regarding the Web 2.0 technology, and I think an illusion that one of the panelists made that it's kind of like a privacy nirvana of some sort, and I want to just put up my a slight disagreement to that, basically, because while it affords people the opportunity to transact seamless data, seamless transactions, cryptographically, there is also some Slight challenges that I think privacy as cybersecurity professionals at least should apply their minds to. Number one, at least, is now who is the controller or processor for decentralized personal data? Especially when we're talking about the Web 3.0. That's the first one. And then where would this decentralized data be stored in terms of like location or jurisdiction? So it doesn't at least state that. Then how do we also respond, to subject access requests, and which entities are required to respond to such requests? And how do we delete or change personal information on another blockchain? So these are kind of like issues that I believe that Web 3.0 at least may pose a lot of challenges to privacy professionals in terms of understanding and understanding how we can make this new technology that's coming up safer for people to use, and not to be the kind of mess that we are in today in terms of like our privacy and our data being sold before our faces. So yeah, just to piggyback on that, and thanks for the conversation.
Spencer, can I comment on Vic really quick?
Sure.
If you listen to Alice, and I actually have a video where I'm talking with her on my LinkedIn, she talks about storing the data on the ESRI platform, which is trusted by governments already, and really layering that genomic data that we're starting to collect from people onto that global mapping system, and then organizing patient groups to take agency over their own data in that respect, and looking at material transfer agreements between patient groups and institutes as well. So she has a very interesting idea and concept, and if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll find that interview there. But I also wanted to comment too really quick that we need better stories to explain to people what data is and how it affects them, because again, it's not tangible and people don't look at it. They look at the data being collected as convenience, right? That they're seeing things pop up on their screen that they were looking at, and it makes it easy for them. And so we need to really let them know that the convenience comes at a cost. And really, I think that's one of the things that we need to find are stories of things to really, get regular people to understand these things, and do it in a way that they're going to understand it, and not with 300 pages of legal documents that they need to read through beforehand. When you're looking at the medical industry, you're also looking at a lot of people who are, again, giving their data out of desperation, and they're looking at quality of life. They're not looking at where this data is going, and they should be, because that could help with their own quality of life. But anyways, that video is up on LinkedIn. So I just, in case anyone, I know Spencer, you'd mentioned Alice's ideas, and she talks it all out specifically on that broadcast. So I'm Christine, my perspective.
Hey, Christine, I just want to chime in really quick. It'd be great if you have a link to that video. If you want to plug it onto the Miro board, our public whiteboard, which is pinned to the top of the room, as a reminder for anyone who would like to take a look at topics that are discussed in this room from month to month. And Christine, it would be awesome if you wanted to post a link to that there, so everybody has access to it, and everyone and anyone can kind of poke around that. And
I'll do that right now. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Well, I think that's going to be where we wrap this room up. Unless somebody has a dying thought that they need to get off by the end of this discussion, I'm going to pass it back to Julie to close out the room. We host this meeting once a month, and if you or someone you know would want to be on one of the panels, feel free to reach out. All my information's in my bio. This has been an amazing conversation, and always taking it to the next level on these dialogues. So really looking forward to the next one. But until then, I'm going to pass it to Julie to close this room out.
Thank you, Spencer. Everyone on the panel, thank you so much. Really another really excellent conversation. It's so important and so timely, and so really important. Really appreciate everyone's really outstanding input here. Very much looking forward to the next one. Please share the replay and reach out to Spencer, like he said, if you'd like to join the panel the next time or have anyone to recommend. In closing, again, I'm Julie Szmyd. I'm project manager at Consuli, host for this room and club. As we wrap, just a few things to note. I will link at the top. I'm going to pin our website. Trying to do both at the same time. There you go. And in it, just kind of things to mention, in addition to this room and club, we also host a long COVID and clinical trials room. You can learn more by following our club, Consuli Conversations. Just tap the little greenhouse at the top. Check out our upcoming rooms for the next couple months there. You can set alerts and also be sure to check out everyone's profile here, follow each other. If you follow me and Elizabeth, you'll get pinged the next time to this room. For any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, my email is in my bio, so feel free to use that. I love hearing from you guys. You can find Consuli on social media. It's at Consuli_Inc. Again, those links are in my bio. And for those that joined during our event or after our opening announcements and don't yet know Consuli, broadly, Consuli is a public benefit company with the mission to enable individuals to participate in the data economy. Experts do suggest our individual data is worth $20,000 per year, so we help people take control and choose who gets access to and how their personal health and data information is used, and if and when desired, get them paid for their data and make medicine better. So we do this by operating a marketplace for members where we become their agent. Our members receive smart matched, individualized offers from us for opportunities, including to participate in clinical trials and data trials. There's no cost to join our movement, and you can learn more at consuli.net, consuli.net. Can't wait for the next Clubhouse discussion. I will leave this room open a little bit with some music playing so folks can linger and poke around other profiles if there's somebody of interest. And thank you again so much, everyone, for participating in this really excellent conversation. Till next time.